Welcome back to Filipino Time. And today we have our friend Mike Logico for part 2 of his watch collection. This time, Mike's gonna take us on a military collection journey.
Okay, so last episode, I showed you the general garden variety of my collection. But if I were to define how the theme of my collection would be going, it is gravitating towards the military timepieces.
Of course.
So I don't really have to explain what's the appeal of the military watch. It's because some of them were made with military specifications in mind.
Yes.
To satisfy the operational requirements for both planning at the tactical and the operational level. It looks like I'm lecturing again. So many of these watches, if you notice, from the dial perspective, a lot of them are gonna contain Arabic numerals.
Okay.
Because sometime in the early development of military watches, Arabic numerals became one of their specifications.
Okay.
To make it idiot-proof.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you're setting an operation that requires artillery to support infantry, you cannot have artillery fire as you are assaulting the objective. Okay? So at some point in time, you're going to have to lift artillery fire so that the infantry can come in and do more up-close and personal damage.
Okay.
So that's the reason why it is important to keep time and to set time for all components of the operation. So sometimes you'd see the movies, they would set the time.
Yes.
And that's another requirement. They had to be hacking.
Okay.
They had to know when artillery is to be lifted at a certain point to signify the transition of one phase of the operation to another.
Okay.
So I'm sorry.
The
lecturer
please.
came out again. Okay.
Yes.
So many of these may be hacking. Some of them at a certain point in time of their production were not hacking. Okay, but they were used by men and women of the armed forces.
Okay.
The first one I showed you was the previous episode was the paratrooper watch from Vostok.
Yes.
Yeah. So this was my very first military watch, and the very first watch in my collection, proper watch in my collection. So some of them, they came out with the submarine dials. Some of them came out with the MiG-21 dials. I picked this because of my paratrooper experience, my paratrooper history, and it's quite sad to say that the place where I bought it from, a certain area in Kiev known as St. Andrew's Descent, became the site of heavy combat fighting right now in Kiev. Some of my classmates in the UN staff officers course, I check up on them from time to time, and they're still there. They're still struggling. They're still fighting the good fight. We're rooting out for you. Okay. So this other one,
one of the latest.
One of the latest is the Benrus 6089. It's a super compressor case. It's called the Devil. It's one of those watches they call the Devil Diver at the time because it had water resistance of 606 feet.
Yeah.
Don't know why it has to be so exact. Pwede naman 600 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are watches you buy for the complications. This one, the complication is not in the movement; it's in the case. It contains a spring-loaded case back that actually makes the watch more water resistant the deeper you go.
Yeah. But actually, I was telling Mike that even the dial and most especially the handset.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes, it's one of the most beautiful watches actually in this collection. And actually, this watch, why is it a military watch? Well, it was sold in PX stores. during the Vietnam War. It was never issued,
Okay.
but anything that was sold in the PX stores probably got their hand, probably was on the wrist of a U.S. serviceman at some point in time.
True. True.
Yeah. This one is the Caravelle.
Yes.
The Caravelle also has water resistance of 666 feet,
Oh,
which
okay.
makes it also a devil diver.
Got it.
So I bought this from Ned Urani. Thank you very much. It's also my birth year watch. Caravelle was also a sister company of Bulova, which had a very specific way of dating their watches. And I only found out after getting it that this was actually my birth watch. It had a very faint inscription, N1.
Yes.
N stands for the 70s.
Yes.
1 stands for 1971. So this is my other birth year watch. The dial layout is very similar to that of the Rolex Explorer. The older, what was that reference? 16 reference.
But there's just something about these old watches, no, Mike, that just even it's so simple, but it's so beautiful.
Yes, and which means that beauty is always simple.
Yeah. Well, okay. I couldn't have
Yeah,
said it better.
Yeah.
And this Seiko.
Okay. This is probably the rarest watch in my collection. This is the Seiko SOG MACV,
Okay.
Special Operations Group Military Assistance Command Vietnam.
Wow.
This was basically the watch worn by Special Operations Forces in Vietnam. There's a very good article written about it, Running Recon, which explains the reason why Special Forces operators opted for the Seikos instead of the Hamiltons and the Benrus at the time.
Okay.
They had to wear watches that could not directly associate them
Oh,
with
okay.
the military, which is strange
Okay.
because you're an American stationed in Vietnam.
What else
You're
could you be?
military. Yeah, but that's the logic that they were using. So,
Okay.
like I said, some of them were hacking, hand winding. This is neither
Okay.
hacking nor hand winding.
Okay.
But it served the purpose of its intended use by the U.S. Army Special Forces. So this is one among three Seiko references that were used to describe the Seiko MACV.
Okay.
Okay, and this one that I have is the rarest one of all because it's a 7005 8030.
Where did you source this?
I
Mike?
got this also from Ned.
Okay.
Yeah. And Ned, I know you want it back, but unfortunately I put a crack in the crystal, So I'll have to own up to the crack. So from the research that I went through, from what I read, I don't know how true it is, but there are only 24 accounted for.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess this is the 24th.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one is
Zodiac.
Zodiac. Okay, so these were one of those watches that were also sold to U.S. Army servicemen. Were not issued,
Okay.
but they were sold at PX stores. So Zodiac also has a long history that parallels the history of Rolex.
Okay.
These were among the first to come up with a commercially available dive watch to be used by the casual diver.
Okay.
Okay, so what I like about this is the size.
It's a very interesting size.
It is a 35 millimeter dive watch, very thin, probably dwarfed by today's standards of dive watches.
Yes, yes. The
Yeah.
44s and
44,
such.
yes.
Yeah.
But it takes you back to an earlier time, and the size itself, if you're confident, you can wear a smaller watch, and it loses nothing of its utility value.
Mm. Mm. And next is now.
Okay, that's the CWC
Yeah.
W10. So what I have is the manual wind version. Actually, the W10, if you notice, the CWC was the company that took up the contract for the British military for making watches after Hamilton left.
Okay.
So now Hamilton came up with the Hamilton Pilot Pioneer, which they issued just about recently. And if you go to any watch store that carries Hamilton, you will find them carrying the Hamilton Pilot Pioneer, which is exactly the same watch.
I see.
The same watch that the same watch design, the same strap.
Okay.
So, but the thing is, the Pilot Pioneer, I don't think they can anymore carry the Fion arrow. So I always wanted a watch that had the Fion arrow.
Okay.
What's the Fion arrow? Well, it's a marking on the watch that tells us that this is the property of Her Majesty.
Okay.
See, so that's what it means. Sometimes, I see watch companies, they come up with they put the Fion arrow on their watches.
Okay.
But honestly, the only way you can put it there is if this was issued to the British military.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this one, this is when someone says a military watch, this is what I think of.
Yes. Okay. So Hamilton reissued their field mechanical, which is a larger version of this, around the size of 38 millimeters.
Yes.
I bought that first, and I found out, it's kind of large. So I sought for the original military watch used in the Vietnam conflict, and the size itself is more appropriate. And judging from the date of this production, I'd say that this probably saw action.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe has probably more stories to tell than I would.
And next, this one is something that's a little bit different from everything else here.
Okay, so this is an Omega Jumbo 32T, which I bought in Tel Aviv, Israel.
Okay.
Okay, so I had it checked out. Yes, that's 30T2 movement. But the dial in itself, I'd say that this is probably a reworked dial. But this is the closest that I have to a Dirty Dozen.
Okay.
Okay, because the Dirty Dozen that Omega made also made use of the 30T2 movement, and also around that same size.
Guys, Sir Mike is on the hunt, so if you want to drop him a message.
Okay, I have this fascination with Blancpain.
Yes.
Yeah, but maybe the chances of me ever coming across a Blancpain in the metal are probably very small. Okay, but in my search, I discovered this company called WMT, Walter Mitty Experimental Watch Unit. Okay, so if you go to their website, they will offer you customized designs for the watches. So you make your own design. So what I did was I got a picture of an old Blancpain 50 fathoms, and I designed the watch from their choices of many different dials, bezels, cases, and hands. And I tried my best to approximate what would amount to a Blancpain 50 fathoms, or else a Tourniquet Reveal.
Okay.
Tourniquet Reveal pala, they have come up with their reissues through Mark II, and I was on the waiting list for that one. When many times I tried hanging on to that wait list, only to find out that they're all sold out.
Wow.
So, but this is the closest one that I have. So you can go there actually. You can design your own watch.
Okay.
And according to your preference, dials, hands. You also have the choice whether you can have them patinaed or not.
Okay.
So I chose not to.
Okay.
I chose not
That's
to.
interesting.
I wanted it pristine. I wanted the dial the way it is,
Okay.
without the patina.
That's so interesting. And next we have this Squale, and I
Okay.
know, Mike, you're gonna tell us about the case, right?
Yes. Some watches you buy because of the movement. This one I got because of the case. So this is called the 1521 case. Squale makes this for other companies. They made the 1521 case for at one time they gave it to Blancpain
Okay.
for their 50 fathoms, the ones that they issued to the German frogmen. This one, the PVD version, they actually made that for the Italian Navy.
Okay.
Okay. So I got this. It's like it's also it's the closest thing that you're gonna get to owning a Blancpain 50 fathoms.
Okay. So it's the
Yeah,
same.
but it's a normal, but it's a more contemporary watch.
Yes.
So I put it on a Hirsch Extreme. Hirsch, I'm told, does not make this anymore. And true to form, looking at it, yes, that's about the most extreme I've seen in a strap. It looks sturdy and it feels like it too.
Yes. And now the most important piece, which has a lot
Yeah.
of memories or a story,
Oh,
or
wow.
what should we call it?
Yeah.
Experience?
A lot of trauma.
Trauma. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Fed, I nearly died wearing this. So this was the watch I was wearing when our plane caught fire. So long story short, I'm not allowed to discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah, I talk about this, and suddenly somebody's going to remind me not to talk about it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this was on my wrist when I nearly died. And if things did not go the way if I was really unlucky, this would have been the only thing that would have identified me. Because this would probably have survived if I did not.
Mm.
Yeah. So aside from dental records, it would probably have been my wristwatch. So this is the Marathon GSAR. The Marathon is a Canadian-based company that is also that is Swiss-made, and they've been producing watches for the military. And this one in particular, I acquired early on in my watch collection, but it never had the metal bracelet.
Okay.
I've been wearing this on tough assignments because of its robust case design.
Yes.
And the way it seems to handle a lot of difficult activities. And you see, it's quite thick watch.
Yes.
Yeah, and the reason why it is thick is because it has to be because the dial indices there are all tritium tubes.
Yes.
So because of that, it has to raise the space between the dial and the crystal.
Yes.
And that's the reason why
And it's also on the
thick
hands you
watch.
mentioned, no?
Yes, it's also on the hands. So
Yeah.
so that means that the requirement is to have it a little bit thicker to accommodate
Yes.
those both the tritium tubes on the dial and also on the hands. Yeah. So what else can I say about this? I've seen this on the wrist on Balikatan exercises. I've seen this on the wrist of the commander of Marine Forces Pacific.
Okay.
And I told him, sir, I have the same watch.
Mhm.
And I would like to compliment you. That's quite quite a remarkable watch that you're wearing.
So what's next, Mike? After all of these watches you've shared with us, I know you still have other watches you didn't bring, but what are you on the hunt for, or what are you looking for?
I think going through life with no expectations is better. One thing that has taken me through life is, if you have no expectations, life will just surprise you.
Okay.
Life will just surprise you, and sometimes that's the better part of the deal when it comes to living your life. Just enjoy the surprises. There have been regrets. I know there have been regrets. Some some things that I've sold that I knew I should have kept.
Yeah.
But I think life is like that.
Okay.
You know, there are things that you just pass through your hands, and then after that, it's on the wrist of somebody else. The thing is, all of uh, especially the vintage ones, they were on the wrist of somebody else
Right.
before I acquired them,
Yes.
and I appreciate the way they took care of the watch. This would probably be still be ticking long after I'm gone. You know, and it also signifies the way we are fragile, we are finite, and the way time does not seem to care about us at all. You know, they will just keep on ticking long after we're gone. You know, and probably these will be on somebody else's wrists,
Yeah.
and they will probably wonder who was the guy who owned it before me.
Thank you so much, Mike.
You're welcome, Fed.
Guys, thank you for joining us for part 2 of Mike's collection. Thank you so much for your support. And this is Fed Borromeo from Filipino Time.